5:30 on Monday afternoon, October 4th. The Goldsboro City Council regular meeting agenda is called to order. First thing we'll do is ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mayor Ham.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak.
Present.
Councilmember Broadway.
Here.
Councilmember Matthews.
Present.
Councilmember Aycock.
Here.
Okay, we're all here. Next item is the approval of the agenda.
I'm
We
sorry.
have a copy of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
We got Ms. Jones.
Councilmember Jones is supposed to be
Sorry.
Zoom online. Sorry.
Yes, I'm present.
You just state your name.
Hiawatha Jones, present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hiawatha. Okay. Now we'll do the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as prepared?
Move to adopt. Second.
A motion to approve and adopt the agenda. Any opposed? If not, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mayor Ham.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak.
Yes.
Councilmember Jones.
Yes.
State your name, please.
Hiawatha Jones, yes.
Thank you. Councilmember Broadway.
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews. Councilmember Aycock.
Yes.
Okay. The agenda is approved. We have no old business. We'll go into the new business tonight. We are going to continue with the process of the replacement of the 5th District Council member, and at this time we will have presentations by the two candidates. The candidates are reminded that each of you have 10 minutes to speak. Following that time, the council may or may not, as they decide, to ask questions. I see Mr. Gaylor here. Is Ms. Phyllis Merritt James here? Ms. James, thank you. So it's by alphabetical order, and at this time I invite Mr. Gaylor to come forward. Excuse me. Let's get the clock started here first. Madam Clerk, are we ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, distinguished members of City Council. I'm grateful for this opportunity to pursue a more livable and desirable Goldsboro and work with each of you to get us there. My name is Charles Gaylor, and I want to thank you for considering my candidacy as you make your appointment for Councilman of Goldsboro District 5. It speaks to the strength of District 5 and the city as a whole that before you are two candidates with very established professional careers, both of whom hold advanced degrees in their respective fields. We as a district and as a city benefit greatly when multiple qualified candidates express their desire and commitment to serve our community and give of their talents. I'm grateful to be part of this process, and I commit to serving the district and the city, regardless of whether I or Ms. Merritt James are selected to serve on the council. In my application, I discussed that Goldsboro is my home of roughly 30 years. Let me offer a little bit of clarity. I was born in Wayne Memorial Hospital, went through daycare at First Baptist, then Wayne Montessori, North Drive, Carver Heights, School Street, Dillard, Eastern Wayne Middle, and then graduated from Eastern Wayne High in 2002. After high school, I moved to Raleigh to attend first NC State and later Campbell University, where I completed my master's, commuting back and forth to Bowie's Creek while also working as an engineer. In 2010, I moved to Greensboro to attend Elon University School of Law, graduating in 2013. That August, I moved back home to Goldsboro, and even during this period from 2002 to 2013, I called Goldsboro home. But since returning home, I have served this community in a variety of ways. In my executive role at Wayne Community College, we work to reduce barriers to post-secondary education and increase overall educational attainment in Goldsboro and Wayne County. Our mission is to meet the educational, training, and cultural needs of our communities. We work to support families through low-cost options for post-secondary education and valuable trade skills-focused training. The goal is to help every student reach their full potential as a creator, a tradesperson, an employee, or as an employer. My first position at the college in 2013 was doing just this thing as the director of the Small Business Center, where my sole focus was to create and support entrepreneurship within our community. I absolutely loved this job and the exposure to the visions, both grand and modest, of our neighbors who walked through the door. I carry the memories and knowledge of their struggles and successes with me, and we use that information on council to implement policies and initiatives to support our neighbors as they work to build businesses and improve our community. I served the Wayne County Chamber of Commerce as a board member and later as chairman. During this time, I focused on bringing attention to the agricultural assets that have made this city and county thrive for generations, but also on my true belief that entrepreneurship is the key to growing a local economy and creating lasting pride in one's community. I took action as chair, creating the then ad hoc Agricultural Affairs Committee, officially reactivating a committee from the Chamber's past. As my time as chair concluded, I worked to create a partnership between the Chamber, Wayne Community College, and the EV Committee of DGDC to launch an entrepreneurship initiative conveniently called Launch. While COVID pretty much squashed the momentum of that initiative, I absolutely intend to refocus and re-energize this undertaking in the coming months, whether on council or not. I've also had the privilege of serving as both a board member and subsequently chairman of Literacy Connections of Wayne County. During my time in service to Literacy Connections, we reimagined and reinvented how that organization operated. We found focus, efficiency, and frankly, some more credibility. We worked to refresh friendships and reestablish partnerships, allowing us to truly focus on the specific thing that the organization was formed to do. Literacy Connections is built to help adults learn to read. It is that simple. But as many positive things as I feel like I brought into that organization, this is the perfect example of the old adage that the more you give, the more you get. Being so involved in Literacy Connections gave me insights that I simply would have never found otherwise. That time taught me to never assume that someone can't read just because they don't yet know how. It reaffirmed to me how many ways that life is harder when you don't know what the little symbols we call letters mean when they're displayed on food packaging, potentially hazardous materials at work, or those all-important prescription labels. A fact that led to an amazing partnership with Wayne UNC. A huge shout out to them. They've been wonderful, that organization. For me, this also put on full display all the amazing ways that our neighbors, our citizens, find to manage this challenge. Some endure due to embarrassment of fear or fear of some form of retaliation. Some do so purely because they think they must. Some even learn tricks on how to hide it. But those who chose to come to Literacy Connections often came because they are now a grandparent who plays a critical role in the development of a grandchild. Life hits different when it's your grandchild asking you to read them a book that you've never seen before. These are our neighbors. They're tough as nails and committed as ever to being resilient and elevating their family in this way. These are families who deserve to have our respect and our support as they make their way through life. This action of taking command of a challenge and resolving it is more than a luxury or something that is simply nice. From my conversations with those learners taking their next step, I gathered that this was more than something they simply enjoyed doing. This was them setting an example. This was their way of ensuring that their own grandchild grew up with a higher expectation of life, a bigger set of tools in their own proverbial toolbox, and a greater commitment to learning. This was their way of working to eliminate generational poverty, their way of working to eliminate generational health issues, their way of trying to set up their grandchild to be a leader and not solely a dependent. These are citizens of Goldsboro, and these are the folks whose commitments to their families we must amplify through sound policy decisions and respectful discourse. If appointed, I will remember these individuals and their families in every decision that I make. I will help the council in my own way to measure policy such that it achieves the necessary end, but takes measures to protect those who may unintentionally be adversely impacted. Also in my application, I briefly discussed that I intend to pursue a clean, walkable, livable city for all its citizens. We have an incredible city staff who work long hours, some in challenging conditions, to make the city aesthetically attractive. I want to support their efforts and multiply them. Our city must take pride in every district. I call upon our designated and undesignated civic leaders to encourage our citizens to in some way also take part in making this an attractive place to visit or call home. My main point, however, is that our city must be walkable and livable. I'll provide two specific examples, not to point fingers, but to call attention to room for improvement. Take a look at the roadside along Spence Avenue between Spence Place and Royal Avenue. The grass is worn bare from pedestrian traffic. The same is found along Herman and Wayne Memorial Drive between Goldsboro High School all the way up to the bus stop near Starbucks. I don't have a pedestrian count, but I know that I drive this path 4 times a day at a minimum, and more times than not, I see someone trying to navigate the combination of railroad tracks, complete sidewalk sections, grass roadside, and other obstacles. Plus, Mother Nature is telling us all we need to know. The grass is worn bare. I remember a few years back when all the work was done to increase the linear footage of sidewalks installed along Wayne Memorial Drive, and I commend those efforts. I'm simply saying that there is a major opportunity to increase the quality of life for a substantial number of our citizens. While expensive, and I do not understate that, and not always an option given the nature of roadways and who owns them, these are often overlooked things that do make a huge impact. Goldsboro is in a prime location during a transformative time in our state and nation. While many states are seeing population declines, North Carolina is seeing major population growth. Not only that, but we are seeing major growth in 2 parts of the state that are less than an hour drive from us. Greenville, and particularly Raleigh, are going to continue to grow. By default, we will too. Think about it. The triangle cannot grow north or west. To the south, Lee, Harnett, and Chatham counties are basically balled up, at least to the level that current economics would make development there feasible. And to the east, Johnson County is out of water and has little choice but to curb its own development. The growing population effectively has no choice but to look to Wilson and to Goldsboro. If we are fortunate enough to position ourselves as a viable option for development, investment will come. We can choose to embrace it, benefit from it, and work to moderate it in a way that supports our existing citizens, or we can choose to ignore it and find ourselves being merely reactive a few short years from now. What District 5 and the City of Goldsboro needs is another leader with integrity, some vision, and a little humility. If appointed, I will strive to build respectful and productive relationships with each of you, with our committed city employees, and with the dedicated and resilient citizens of District 5. My name is Charles Gaylor, and I ask for your support as you make this appointment to the District 5 seat on the Goldsboro City Council. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'll ask the council if they have any questions. I'll start with Councilman Aycock.
I got a tough question for you. You and I have known each other since Montessori School, whenever.
Yes, sir.
If I voted one way on something and you felt differently, would you have any problems voting the opposite way?
No, sir. No, sir, not at all. I believe that both of us are reasonable people, logic, attempt to be educated in whatever the issue would be. We may not always agree, and that's fine. That's what makes civil discourse powerful.
Thank you.
Councilwoman?
I don't have a question.
Sir?
You kind of answered this, but I want to ask the same questions of both candidates. So what additional contributions do you feel that you can contribute to this council to ensure that all citizens of Goldsboro can feel valued no matter their socioeconomic status?
That's a great question, because so often those that are able to be involved in politics during a candidacy or during whatever else are the ones that feel they have the ear of those council members. That's a great question. My stance is simply that it doesn't matter what kind of car you drive, what kind of house you live in. It doesn't matter to me how much tax you pay. It doesn't matter to me the value of the things that you own. What matters to me is, are you a voting, tax-paying member of the city of Goldsboro? And I'm not just saying District 5. If someone outside of my district comes to me with a question, I'm going to listen. I'll refer them to the appropriate person. I'm not necessarily the one with all the answers, but I will refer them to the appropriate person. And I've tried to be that way in my professional career. I've tried to be that way in pro bono work through the law firm. I've tried to be that way as chairman for these other boards that I've served. And I intend to continue that culture on council.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Broadway?
First thing, I want to thank you for coming forward
Thank you, sir.
on this council. Secondly, what is, in your opinion, the most important issue coming forward in District 5 at this time?
District 5 is such a diverse district, isn't it? You know, your district is that way. You know, they all are, aren't they? District 5 has a lot of valuable property. District 5 also has a lot of property that has seen challenges. District 5 has a lot of businesses that completely span the socioeconomic gamut, right? I think that a major challenge for District 5 that I really didn't think about until this weekend when I was trying to pull this together is, if we're not careful, Wayne Memorial Drive is going to be another Berkeley. And I don't say that as a slap against Berkeley by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that we've got to have some metered approaches for how the development along that corridor going out to the new interstate is going to look and it's going to feel, and how the traffic is going to be managed. So I think that major development corridor right there, don't get me wrong, there's water issues we've got to talk about, there's pedestrian issues we've got to talk about, but I think that corridor is so prime and ripe for development that I think we've kind of got to get our hands around that in a very constructive way as quickly as possible. So,
Thank you.
Ms. Jones, do you have any questions?
No,
Councilwoman
not at this
Jones.
time. Thank you for your application, Mr. Gaylor.
thank you, Ms. Jones. Councilmember Jones.
Okay, so you spoke about the growth of, to the west of us. And that is something that we're concerned with here in the city in terms of how do we support that growth. I'm sure you've been aware of a lot of discussion. We've been talking about our water sewer infrastructure and the state of repair it's in and so forth. Do you have any comments you want to make about that?
Well, I do, because it's a necessary challenge. We cannot be a Flint, Michigan. We don't have a choice. You've got to have water to drink, to wash clothes, to support your family. You've also got to have water to support businesses that wash cars. You've got to have water to support large industrial and commercial growth. Case Farm is a perfect example. You've got to have those supplies in place. And so that requires investment by the city. But I believe council is wise to be hesitant and metered in its response, because we have to acknowledge that our city has a significant portion of its population that has major financial challenges. And so how do we go about making that investment in a metered, or pun intended, I suppose, way that does not push certain citizens even further into poverty or further onto social support systems or out of our community altogether? And I don't know exactly what that looks like. I've not been in this game as long as y'all have, but there has to be some way of either a progressive rate system, or there has to be something that ensures that we don't push citizens out or further down the chain with these decisions. But they are necessary decisions. You're absolutely right. Something has to happen. So,
I'm not sure. I don't think there are any other questions. If not, we thank you for your appearance and your volunteering to be a member of this council. Thank you very much.
thank you, council.
And by the way, sir, you can stay if you like, or you can leave, whichever your choice. Okay. At this time, I would ask Ms. Mary James come forward, please. Good evening, ma'am. I think you know the process now, so let's
Yes.
get your 10 minutes up on the.
Good evening, Mayor.
Hold on a second. Let's get your clock started here.
You're good.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. My name is Phyllis Merritt James, and I'm here to do a presentation regarding the candidacy for City Council District 5, and thank you so much as well. It's entitled, From Brooklyn to the Borough, Then Beyond and Back. Who am I then and now? I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York until the age of 10, relocated to North Carolina, considered at risk by current standards. Despite her husband and my father leaving my mom, she built a village, Sunday school, Boys and Girls Club, 4-H, etc., while working nights at O'Berry Center. We lived in West Haven. I attended Goldsboro City Schools from the 5th grade through the 12th grade, and I'm a proud Goldsboro High, class of '83 graduate. In 1987, I graduated from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill with my bachelor's in science in nursing. And after then, I worked at Duke University Medical Center and then moved to Rapid City, South Dakota after marriage. Air Force, not necessarily by choice. Graduated with my master's in 1994 from the ECU School of Nursing with a case management focus, and was a proponent of that component being implemented at Wayne Memorial Hospital, and was blessed to be one of the first case managers there. I was integral in the formation of the stroke support group here and implementing processes for cost-effective care and education of patients and citizens. I don't have my
It's not up there.
clicker's not here.
Can you pause for time, please?
Yes.
Check under the podium. I think he moved it.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Let's see if I can.
The middle button goes down.
Okay, I got it.
Go back.
So I have to go back. Go back.
seconds.
Okay, so,
Wait 30 seconds and hit it
Okay.
again.
all right. Like our slogan says, be more, do more, see more. As a wife and mother of 3, I did just that by obtaining my postmaster certification as a family nurse practitioner at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill in 2003. I was involved and continue to be involved in poll worker, school,
Middle.
Can you back up?
Middle
to-
button.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Continual involvement as a poll worker, school support, church, as well as outreach. I'm currently a board certified family nurse practitioner in North Carolina Nephrology, PA. Why the City Council? Why now? It's time. The challenges presented during COVID-19 pandemic calls for involvement and representation from all around the table, from all segments. I have lived it, and I am that representation. I'm a consensus maker, a collaborator, resourceful, effective communicator, and a skillful listener. Our district and city has made strides, but we still have opportunities for improvement. A review of our goals and our measured metrics in the strategic plan denotes the same, as well as the analysis of impediments in the CAPER reports. Why the City Council? Why now? We have an affordable housing crisis, employment, and healthcare crisis on our hands. We also have lost many of the programs that were available to our youth and teens, creating idle minds. I bring a wealth of experience as a provider, a military spouse, a mother who knows the importance of dignity, advocacy, and equity for our constituents no matter where they live or where they come from. No Ivy is an island. We're all in this together. What is my vision for Goldsboro? To be a beacon of excellence for other municipalities to come and model. To work collaboratively to improve the physical, mental, and socioeconomic health of our citizens. To work to improve our overall infrastructure and support systems that will attract businesses to come and stay by addressing transport, housing, etc. To be fiscally responsible, transparent, and inclusive in all areas. What is my vision for Goldsboro? To increase access to health care, assess what makes providers come and stay, as well as what makes them leave, to change that paradigm where we attract them and they stay. Increasing access to the internet, hotspot connectivity. As shown during the CAPER presentation in September, dollars are available for COVID relief, and instead of sitting there gathering interest, we need to work expeditiously to get it to the people and the programs where it's needed. Explore the feasibility of after-hours transportation for working individuals or those that want to pursue higher or continuing education at our educational centers like Wayne Community College. A $10 round-trip ticket may seem like 10 cents to some, but for others, it's their meal for the day. It's their $10 copay for their medicine, and it's a portion of their water bill. A 2019 survey showed that the average distance to travel to work for our citizens is 14 miles. If that person is limited by their transport needs, it contributes to absenteeism and decreased productivity for the company. Explore the feasibility of a living wage for our workers. Healthcare costs are rising, which impacts individual households and corporations. Healthy communities equal more productive communities. With improved health comes decreased per capita spending on chronic illnesses in the long run, and thus more funding available for other initiatives. Invest in street improvements, safety, walking trails, sidewalks, and clean energy in my district as well as all areas of the city. Increase the availability of programs for our youth by partnering with other agencies to provide tutoring, work study, longer evening hours for the youth centers, and exposure to the arts, etc. Most importantly, to make Goldsboro the most ideal choice of destination for new businesses and corporations to relocate to. Smithfield, Johnson County, and Kinston have had numerous companies relocating there and infusing monies in their community and paying their citizens well. What can we learn from them? One thing is aforementioned, we got to be ready for that growth when it does happen. My 9th grade science teacher wrote in my yearbook a saying which stated, as you travel through life, whatever your goal, keep your eye upon the donut and not upon the hole. My eye is on the big picture, and I would love to share one as a vision with you. One can quote and teach statistics and talk about a lot of things, but you can't teach caring, commitment, instinct, and that is what you will get with me. Thank you, and I appreciate your vote.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Jones, I'll start with you. Do you have any questions for Ms. Merritt James?
No, ma'am. Thank you so much, Ms. James, for your application.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman.
Mr. Broadway?
I'd like to thank you also for coming up here and doing this and volunteering for this. And I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Mr. Gaylor. In your mind, what is the most important issue coming forward in District 5 in the next 2 years?
In the next 2 years,
or as far as you want to take it.
well, we've got immediate needs. Again, as aforestated, we have such an expansive conglomerate of our citizens. We've got anywhere from low-income housing to corporations. One thing that has been left out of our strategic planning is, one, the ability for our people, I want to say patients, our citizens to have access, like I said, to the walkways and safety from that perspective. But the next thing, the growth. We have an aging population. Our primary care providers are leaving, retired, burnt out, and we need to make sure they're there to help and maintain a healthy workforce. Get our younger children and our teens motivated to go into these much needed fields as well, because those that don't have access in their community to stay well and to be productive, again, you have what happens with the citizens and our budget, it gets affected on the back end. So it's so important to invest on the front end into all those programs that can help not only the medical portion of our citizenry, but also the areas that are much needed. Again, housing. We have a lot of vacant housing that's not being utilized. We have a homeless population here. We can retrofit and do different things for those facilities. I always say it's a sad state of affairs when you go by and there's somebody laying outside an unoccupied house and they're homeless. Again, we've got to care for the least of these, and that's what is so important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Paul?
So we have a similar backstory. You came from Brooklyn to the borough. I came from the Bronx to the borough, but not as long as you stayed. Of course, you can tell by my accent. My mom lives on Quail Drive, and since we moved here, that's where she's resided. So you're close proximity to her. The question I have for you is, what is your position on affordable housing as it relates to the rates of rental property versus ownership properties, thereby leaving a legacy or an inheritance to the future?
Again, very good question. We have had a big disparate that's happened with our affordable housing. A lot of people have been priced out of housing here in Goldsboro, which is a travesty. We don't want gentrification to happen. We do not want people to be costed out. What's happening in Clayton, which is an area that I work in, my patients say, I can't find a place to live. I can't afford $1,200 a month, and they've got, $1,200 worth of medical bills or medicine they have to buy. Again, we want to make sure that we have housing set apart. Recently in Durham, this week, they announced an initiative, beautiful edifice of their housing complex that's not the typical housing complex that you see. We lived in West Haven. We came from Brooklyn to West Haven. Wow, I thought I hit the Taj Mahal because we had windows and space. But a lot of people need to be able to have not just that dream and have it where housing is looked down upon, because it's a bridge. If it were not for West Haven, if it was not for food stamps, if it were not for the programs that were available, I would not be here, of course, the prayer and the good Lord, today. So it's so important to make sure that we be deliberate about where we put our housing at. Don't have everything bunched in one area, because you look at our maps, that's what happens in a lot of places. And you want to make sure it's the community and that everybody's exposed to every culture. Because when you get to schools like Carolina or anywhere else, you're not living in a silo. You've got to get used to everything. And the more we're exposed to each other, the more we see that we're more alike than what we're different. That is what's going to change the face of Goldsboro.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Matthews?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Aycock?
Thank you for coming here tonight and presenting. You did a very, very good job. I want you to know that. The other thing I want you to know is, if we weren't wearing these tonight, I would have gone back and talked to you, and I apologize.
No problem.
But the other thing is, there are places worse than South Dakota. Minot and Grand
Yes,
Forks.
Minot, why not? We went there to play basketball.
My wife's from up in North Dakota, so.
I'm sorry.
So, hey, she's here. And
That's good. So I'm telling you, sunshine.
But thank you a lot for your application, and you did a wonderful presentation.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
I have a question. You spoke of homelessness, and I don't know if you get exposed to the homeless programs up in the area where you work, generally, but Goldsboro's about to receive almost $1 million to put towards homelessness here in Goldsboro. And at this time, we're about to form a commission that will make some decisions about where that money goes or how it's spent. Do you have any suggestions that we might take into account?
Yes, what I would definitely look, I'd look into the areas. So again, you're not isolating these citizens, because a lot of times what has happened is not of the necessarily bad choices over their life. Some people have just had something that occurred and they were not able to recover from that, and they need that help. So not put it where it's a hidden spot, because a lot of times when we have monies and we have programs, let's tuck you in this little corner, that's the homeless quadrant. No, we need to incorporate them and not only have it where it's housing and facilities, but also where they can be able to get their education, get job training, have transportation, because that is so important. If they cannot get there, some people may live, by the railroad tracks before you go Waymore Drive to Beach Street, but then they have to walk. It's wintertime, it's the hot, it's torrential rain, and then they can't get there. We need more different things that help not only just with the homeless population, with the housing, but also make sure that network is built around them so they can be successful. And it's not that always going to be in that homeless population, though, so they can be able to bridge up and be a homeowner one day, be able to pull somebody else up, because each person gets pulled up, another person can come behind. That's what we're here for, to help everybody else to be successful. And if it was not for all those that came before me to help, my mom continued to push, and she's 82 and she's here with me, to push that no matter what, whatever your goal is, you can do it. So again, those monies, make sure that we have a good plan, make sure we implement it, and that it's not one that's going to take 20 years to show to fruition.
Thank you. I hope our community relations director is listening to that. So we were very concerned to how that money is going to be spent, by the way. Ma'am, I want to thank you for submitting your application, showing interest in joining this council. We have had tonight two very accomplished speakers come up, and it's going to be a challenge for us to make the decision, but we're going to make that decision 2 weeks from tonight. And I look forward to that happening. Again, I congratulate you and thank you for your interest in this, and you may be excused.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay if you like.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll go to the next item on the new business agenda, and that's our engineering department is going to present us some information on our regional grants.
I asked Marty to put together this presentation for us. Goldsboro has been asked to oversee the regional asset inventory assessment grants, and so Marty will provide this information to council.
Good evening, City Council. It's been a while since I've been up here. The North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality has a program, it's called the Asset Inventory and Assessment Grant, or AIA for short. But they have approached the City of Goldsboro and asked us to oversee some AIA projects associated with a potential merger or regionalization of our wastewater system. And I'll explain that in detail as we go. And anything coming into our water reclamation facility, since we're the only municipality in Wayne County that has an engineering department, we'll lead this effort in coordination with the Division of Water Infrastructure, as well as Wayne County, Eureka, Pikeville, and Fremont. I didn't like it in my face.
You got the flavor, Marty? The slides?
Really good.
Hold on, here it is.
And I just finished with that slide. Okay. The grants are awarded to encourage water and wastewater utilities to use the grant funds to actually become more viable and more proactive in the management and financing of their systems. The grants are limited to $150,000. The program is, you spend that $150,000 over 3 years, and it's to a local government unit or a nonprofit water corporation. There is no match required for distressed units, and Goldsboro's been recently designated, or the LGC has to vote this week sometime, but we anticipate being designated a distressed utility. There is a 1.5% grant fee, and in our case, it'll be about $4,500. So we'll pay $4,500 to get $300,000. Good deal. The eligible projects are an asset inventory, seeing what you have, condition assessment, see what condition that asset is, and then other components, and then the merger regionalization feasibility studies. These are the eligible project components. I'm not going to go through these in detail unless you need me to explain anything in detail on these. A lot of these things we've already done, so we can spend it on enhancing our system. But somebody like Eureka may not. They may have to have they may not even have a GIS of their system. So they'll get a GIS created and other stuff. But the next slide shows the breakdown. We get, I don't know, it don't work on the screen. We get another $100,000 for the merger regionalization effort. So $450,000. Now we have to pay the 1.5% for each of them. But all of these together add up to $1.3 million. What's next? We have been in discussions with one of our engineering firms that had been approved by City Council a while back. We had 3. And CDM Smith is one. We're in discussions with them right now to do our project scope just for City of Goldsboro, and then do the merger regionalization project scope. And these things have to be in by October 16th. And I anticipate it costing less than $5,000. So Tim will process whenever I get the proposal back and I'm okay with it, then Tim will sign off on it. And the timeline will be determined once DWI approves the scopes of work and merger regionalization. Then we'll start getting into the actual details, the components of the AI. And that's essentially it. I'm sure you got questions.
Marty, I got a question. One, where's the county in this?
They have $150,000. They only have the Genoa system, and they don't have an engineering department. I guess they have a superintendent or something that runs the Genoa system, but that's part of the merger regionalization too. You know, it may end up that none of these can merge with us. It may just be that Wayne County's Genoa can merge with us. We don't know until we get done with the AI.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
I saw 150,000. I wondered.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
They don't want to play with us sometimes. So that's why I was questioning that.
Marty, we talked a lot about regionalization here, and I just want to make sure that the members of the council really understand what is meant by regionalization in terms of just the big view thing, in terms of explaining how things are run now independently and how it would be under regionalization.
Yeah, it's a complex web that we'll have to navigate. Who's responsible for what? Obviously, you will have to vote on any kind of agreements or anything like that come in through any kind of discussions. I mean, you'll be fully versed in it before it comes to that.
I believe.
I can't predict what they're going to come out with from these studies. It could be just like I said, it could be a combination of things. It could be we could only take on Wayne County, and the rest of them are just going to have to do whatever they have to do to make their system viable. So I don't know the answer, but
the concept basically is right now. Lots of these towns are tied into a system that we have responsibility for executing in terms of water, sewage, and things of that nature. Correct?
Correct.
And
Eureka goes to Fremont, and then Fremont comes directly to our system. Wayne County comes directly to our system. I'm not sure about Pikeville. I'm not familiar with that one,
but now everybody's sort of taking care of their own stuff now.
Right.
And under the regionalization project, we would sort of be the oversight person, or organization, not person, but,
Okay, initially during the AIA portion, all we'll be doing is managing the AIA contract.
yeah, that's basically what I'm saying.
That's all we're gonna be doing. Now, when you start getting into the nuts and bolts of merger regionalization, that's a whole nother ballgame. We wouldn't be able to be the engineering
No,
department
I
for all
understand that.
of
I
it.
understand
Yeah.
But we are trying to pull this stuff together under the regionalization concept, correct?
Right, well, that's what the state would like to do. The state has already taken over Pikeville and Eureka. And, I'm not sure about Fremont. I know there's some sewer moratoriums on all three of them.
And we don't want it to happen here, Mike.
We don't want that to happen.
Definitely. Any other comments or questions to Marty? If not, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Marty. Okay, I believe, the assistant to the city manager, Octavius is up next. Mr. Murphy.
Good evening, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, Council, staff. It's exciting being before you tonight. A year ago, we had mapped out a process to deliver this, but COVID would not allow us to do so. So thank you for your attention. Thank you for the opportunity to present this to you tonight. Tonight I will be presenting the 2022 Citizens Academy. We'll discuss its purpose. The City of Goldsboro Citizens Academy is an interactive and educational program designed to enlighten residents about the city's history and governmental process to improve and enhance communication with residents. Participants will get a behind-the-scenes look at the city services and the employees who provide those services on a daily basis. The goal of the program is to design the program is designed to give participants knowledge of how the city government works, how it impacts their daily lives, and to create informed and knowledgeable ambassadors for the city who will be able to, one, use the knowledge they gain in their everyday lives and interactions with neighbors, business associates, and customers. Secondly, to become informed neighborhood leaders with the ability to answer questions about city services or who to call. And finally, utilize the knowledge gained to become more involved in the community. If desired, to prepare for an appointment to the city board or commission, or to run for elected office. There is an attendance policy. A person must attend 6 out of 8 sessions. If the session is not completed, he or she may return to make up that missed session during the next city academy. There will be a graduation. Upon completion of the program, the individual will receive a certificate and recognition at the Goldsboro City Council meeting. I've already started receiving calls because we do have an application process. To be considered for the 2022 program, each participant must provide a complete application. Application deadline is at 5 p.m. on Friday, October the 29th. The steering committee will review all applications and make the final selection of the participants for the 2022 Citizens Academy. The class will consist of 80% city residents, 20% Wayne County residents. Class size, 20 participants. There is a selection process. We will start with each district. We'll require each equal representation, a maximum of 3 per district. It'll be on a first come, first served basis. The selection committee will review all applications to determine eligibility. The selection committee will be comprised of 7 individuals. Myself, Latoya Henry, our Public Information Officer, Felicia Williams, our Community Relations Director, will serve as the 3 staff persons. We have started asking individuals who are alumni of the previous School of Government program to participate in the selection process. Here's a snapshot of the 2022 schedule. You should know that we ask you to participate as the council. On the first night, we'll ask the mayor to come open the program, and the city manager will give a state of the city address amongst other comments. Each class will take place on Thursday evenings from 6 to 8 p.m. As I said, the first class will start on January 13th. The second will be held on the 20th with the planning, engineering, and inspection department heads. And we'll ask each one of you to participate on a given night. 8 nights, and there's 7 of you, so it should be a really good program and time spent. January 27th, Community Relations and Downtown Development Directors. February the 3rd, Parks and Rec, Paramount Theater and Goldsboro Event Center and Travel and Tourism will present. February the 10th, Human Resources, Finance, and IT Department Heads. February 17th, the Fire Department and Police Department Heads. February the 14th, Public Works and Public Utilities will present. On March 3rd, that is our anticipated graduation evening. We'll ask the Mayor Pro Tem to close us out with the recognition of the graduates, and also each of your support to give recognition of how important this program is to our city residents and community leaders. This is important. This is an important program. The last class was held on back in 2016, and I think our very own Mayor Ham was a part of that class. Participants don't forget this. They engage after graduating. I'm asking each department head to be creative with their presentations. We need to add value. We need to have good content. We need participation, interactive. If for some reason we cannot hold these sessions face-to-face, we need virtual presence. So there will be an evaluation process. After each session, each presenter will be evaluated. So we'll know that feedback will give us what we need to track and measure our results as we move into the next year's program. Are there any questions?
I'm gonna make a comment. As you said, I participated in the first class. This is really a valuable opportunity for some of our citizens to take part in a very good learning process about the inner workings of this city and really get an appreciation of how things happen. And I'm glad to see it started up again. I hope that we will see graduates of this course come out of it, and I recall members of the class that I attended. We had a judge, we had a lawyer, we had a couple, 3 business personnel, and then we just had citizens that were interested in knowing about the workings of the government. So I'm glad to see it being started up again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that's all of the new business. At this time, we'll move down to the consent agenda items, and Mr. Salmon, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Kenny Calvin will present the information here on items B and C.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
If you will, please. We are going to tonight, or the council will be taking up 2 consent agenda items that you have heard in a public hearing session we had last month. The first item was special use permit 921, applicant Christopher and Alondia Grant had proposed a hookah lounge and bar at 120 East Mulberry Street. This property is located on the north side of East Mulberry Street between Center Street and John Street. Planning Commission recommendation for the proposed hookah lounge. Let me get to that real quick. Planning Commission at their meeting held September 27th recommended denial without prejudice of special use permit for the operation of a place of entertainment. The hookah lounge with ABC permits as the request does not meet the requirements of North Carolina General Statutes 130A-496, subsection B, subsection 2, regarding freestanding structures. Here's the floor plan for the structure. Again, information provided to staff and the Plan Commission did reflect the fact that General Statutes requires that the proposed use as a hookah bar and lounge be located in a standalone or a freestanding structure solely occupied by the proposed use, which in this case would be in the hookah bar and lounge. Unfortunately, to the right there, you see 3 tenant spaces. 2 on the left were as one, the former Adams Barbecue and Restaurant, downtown barbecue restaurant. To the right of that is Sabella Hair Salon. Unfortunately, the 2 occupancies exist in one freestanding structure. So for that reason alone, the Planning Commission recommended denial again of the special use permit for a place of entertainment with ABC permits due to the fact that the request does not meet requirements of North Carolina General Statutes regarding freestanding structures, and if the special use permit were issued, the development could materially endanger the public health or welfare, or if the special use permit were issued, the development would substantially injure the beneficial use of adjoining or abutting property. Moving on to the... Yes, sir.
Does anyone have any questions on the item that he just presented? Any questions?
What happens now? I know the council has to make a decision. We're going to vote later, but I'm just saying when something like that is denied based on what was presented to staff, those the applicants, would they be notified on what they can do, or what is that next process for them? If.
Yes, ma'am. The answer to your question, we had talked with the applicant and informed him of those requirements. But with that knowledge or without that knowledge, if the council were to take the recommendation without prejudice, the applicant could apply for to come back before the board considering these challenges that are existing, and if those items had been resolved, then the council could take that information at a later date and vote to come back in and approve it. That's one option. Number 2, if the council were to accept the recommendation and to deny without prejudice, they could also look for another structure meeting the general statutes requirements downtown, and hopefully if all the other requirements were met in accordance with our zoning regulations in the central business district with the historic district overlay, have that option of choosing to approve at that location.
Councilwoman Jones?
Yes, ma'am.
May I speak?
Sure.
Kenneth, I would hate not to see this business come here. And I'm listening, but my concerns are, is there anything within the codes that we can do, or what can be done? Because there are other bars that are there along that line. So what can we do as a council and a city to help these individuals.
Councilman Jones, at this point in time, unless the state legislature were to change its requirements, we have to follow those requirements with the knowledge at hand in this decision-making process. Again, the only option that I can give you at this time would be the same, that hopefully there's another location downtown that will meet our regulations as well as meet the North Carolina General Statutes requirement for that facility.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So the bottom line basically is, this has, a place of this business has to have a freestanding, non-attached building to meet the state requirements.
Yes, sir, Mayor, that is correct. And this was after the fact, but with regards to the decision-making process, we also learned from state agency officials that hookah operations, you cannot serve food or alcohol with these type of operations as well. So unfortunately, we didn't know that at the time, but now we do know that. So again, these are challenges that we would still have to consider going forward, but hopefully maybe the state and the city could look at resolving those in the future.
Okay, sir.
I have one more question. Kind of piggybacking on what Councilmember Jones said.
Yes,
I would love to see something like this. My wife and I just got back from Wilmington, and they have a couple of culturally diverse, not per se hookah lounges, but I guess CBD and alternative weed choices. And it was really bumping in the nightlife downtown. So I guess we're governed by, like I said, the general statute of the state as far as that. So in comparison to, I guess, what is it, the lounge, the cigar lounge that serves, I see it's a freestanding building, but I guess the only stipulation is that it serves cigars as opposed to hookah is the difference as to why they can serve alcohol or wine. Is that the difference in between those two?
Councilman Pollock, you bring up a good point. These are matters of investigation that are going to require future investigation as we move forward. At present, with the limited knowledge I do have about the cigar lounge, that's something that we will have to, may have to defer to state officials for them to investigate that facility to make sure it is in compliance with state regulations.
And I'm not trying to throw them under the bus. I just wanted to make sure that these applicants didn't feel slighted, because if they were to do their research, I didn't want any backlash from them in reference to that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And to your point too, we did have a gentleman that night at the public hearing per se that came and asked about a hookah operation for the city of Goldsboro.
Yes, sir.
And he told me that he would propose no alcohol or food sales. So that was some light that was shed at that night, that if someone else wanted to do so, which this gentleman did, that there is an opportunity there for someone who wants to continue to have that type of operation here in Goldsboro.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
If there's no other question, we'll move on.
I have another question.
Oh, sorry.
Where can I find that statute?
Yes, ma'am. It's I have the general statutes, a copy of it in my office, Councilwoman Matthews, and it is NCGS 130A as in Adam -496, subsection B, subsection 2. And if you'd like, I'll be glad to send the board, if you'd like, a copy of that ordinance as well.
Can you? Because I'm back at 8.
Absolutely, I'm sorry.
Just if you
I'll be
wouldn't
glad
mind,
to do so. Yes, ma'am.
But do you mind stating it again, just in case the public would like
Absolutely. North Carolina General Statutes 130A as in Adam -496, subsection B, subsection 2. And there is another related statute, 130A-498.
I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
If no other question, I believe you have the next
Let
item
me,
on the agenda.
Kenny, can you briefly describe the freestanding aspect of it?
Absolutely. Yes, sir, manager. The freestanding aspect is that this is the state's interpretation that the freestanding building, the building alone, as you see here, not only has it been interpreted that it be independent, solely supporting of, solely being able to support itself which in this case, it would, even if the buildings on either side of it were damaged or collapsed or were not there, the building would be a somewhat of a standalone structure. However, it must be freestanding where there's space between it and another structure. There are some items with regards to smoke migration measures that must be incorporated into the operation of a hookah bar, and I believe that's one reason why the state's interpretation is that there must be separation between it and another building, not just the fact that it can be supported by itself. And again, outside of that, the freestanding structure component is that it be the sole owner or tenant, the sole tenant for that freestanding structure. And unfortunately, for the applicant, you had the beauty salon which was also a part of that same freestanding structure. If the beauty salon was not there, again, the only component then would be the serving of alcohol and food for the proposed use. And that would be the only issue that would be a problem. Any other questions?
You have the next item.
Yes, sir. So moving on to the next item. I'm sorry, that is correct. We do not have any slides for that, but I will move you along to the next item on the consent agenda was the UDO 2-21 concerning the Industrial and Business Park 1 Special Use Permit Edition, Unified Development Ordinance Amendments. If I could draw your attention to that. The proposed changes were to reflect the addition of chemical products, manufacturing, processing, and storage of treatment of hazardous materials or chemical uses as a special use with the Industrial and Business Park located at Park East here in Goldsboro off of North Oak Forest Road. That is the only zoning district where we have Industrial Business Park located. The Planning Commission did recommend at their meeting held on September 27th to recommend approval for the City of Goldsboro's Unified Development Ordinance to reflect the minor text amendments in Article 5, Section 5.4, 5.5, and 5.5.4, M as in Mary, and 5.5.4, E as in Edward, E as in Edwards, to reflect those text amendments. In a nutshell, the actual uses, chemical products, manufacturing and processing and storage of treatment of hazardous materials, at this time is not a permitted use in the Industrial and Business Park 1 zoning district. The recommendation is to amend the table of permitted uses to where it would be a permitted use. There are supplemental regulations that go along with these type of uses. The Industrial Business Park would be added to that list of zoning districts where the supplemental zoning the supplemental regulations would be added to that. This is connected with the recruitment of an industry within the park by Wayne County's Development Alliance. Are there any questions regarding those text amendments?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
For this particular item, does the council have to approve the amended UDO recommendation or guidelines or whatever requirements before this item comes back for council's approval, or does?
That's right. Yes, sir. This is a two-step process, so that the text itself has to be amended first. So this is the first part of that process. If council approves it, then the applicant, Wayne County, will come back and ask for a special use permit for the chemical manufacturing facility to locate at the park.
So ordinance number 2021 that you have here.
Yes, sir.
Is the action that we are looking at tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
So that the council will be approving the proposed amendments to that.
Yes, sir. You will be approving the recommendation from Planning Commission to amend the text amendments as well as approving the ordinance for the text amendments as required.
Just want to make sure.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Thank you for clarification.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Ms. Jones, do you have any?
I apologize, but I am back on the SU 921 Christopher and Yolanda Grant. Will these individuals be able to come back before the planning committee and we look at the codes and do whatever we can do to help this business in our downtown?
Absolutely, Ms. Jones. We'll be glad to sit down with them, and we'll be glad to examine our current regulations on seeing how we can try to assist them either in another location and possibly if there's anything we can do that will promote a positive change with our UDO, we'll be glad to look at that as well.
How long can they come back?
Well, again, if there's another location they are willing to consider downtown, they can come back at any time. And the same thing with this location. If substantial changes in the proposal were to be made, again, that we would allow them to come back and alter the proposal so that the board could consider it at the next public hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Okay, sir, if there are no other questions, we're at the time where it's about 6:41 now. Mr. Lawrence, I understand you could have a short closed session if you could work that in, or do you want to postpone it?
I mean, we can go ahead and do it now. Won't take but just a
You
minute.
indicated
It's just
about
an
a 5
update on
minute.
something.
Okay.
That's up to y'all.
Okay, with the council's approval, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session. Go into closed session.
Motion to go into closed session.
Second.
A second, any discussion?
The purpose is going to be personnel and litigation.
Okay. Okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Ham?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Polak?
Yes.
Councilmember Jones?
Yes.
State your name, please.
Hi, Walter Jones.
Thank you. Councilmember Broadway?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Aycock?
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. We are now closed session. I would ask the visitors to please Okay,
Another session.
motion to recess until 7 o'clock.
So moved.
Second.
Any
You
discussion?
don't technically have to vote on that, you can just,
Okay.
as the mayor, you can limit recess
We can
until
recess till
7.
7.
Okay.